Hi everyone, Miss Martin here. This video is for anyone who wasn't able to join our live chat today, or you guys are doing your work at a different time, which is totally fine. I just wanted to review the lesson we worked on this week, which is why do some things explode? So let's get right to it. So our big goal is I can explain how gases and chemical reactions cause explosions. And you can see over here we have a big fire one, and then over here we have the one that I showed last week. And we'll talk about our experiment as well as the assignment for Monday. So let's review Monday's experiment. As we watched the video, we were looking for these questions. How can explosions be helpful? Why was it so hard to capture the bubbles in the chemical reaction? So when the scientists, the alchemists, were working in their labs, they had a hard time capturing those bubbles. Why was that? What does chaos mean? And why did the glass shatter? So let's take a look. So, how can explosions be helpful? Some things we saw in the video was that they could be helpful in demolition, when they're either blowing up old buildings or when they're blowing up mountains and big rocks and trying to make tunnels. Why was it so hard to capture the bubbles in the chemical reaction? When they are created, they float up through a liquid and they escape into the air. What does chaos mean? Chaos means out of order or messy. And why did the glass shatter? The glass shattered because the pressure of the gas got too much for the container to keep it all in, and it eventually shattered the glass. So let's take a look at the bag of bubbles experiment. This one was really fun, and if you guys can do this at home, definitely try it. Just make sure you ask a parent. So why did the bag explode? That was our big question. When the baking soda mixed with the vinegar, it produced a gas. So you can see in here, it's all blown up. The pressure of gas filled up the container until it eventually exploded. And I actually got both of my bags to explode. If I had put in less of a mixture, so if I put in less baking soda or less vinegar, we would not have seen the bags explode. They might have just puffed up. So the amount of stuff you mix together determines how big of a boom you get. We're going to watch the wrap up from this experiment and look a little bit more about how this thing happens.
The chaos, or bubbles, are some kind of stuff. Even though as the bag puffs up, we can't actually see what's making it expand. The alchemists weren't sure what this stuff was. They just knew that it was difficult to capture. It would escape the container, or worse, it would make the container burst. The name chaos was given to it by an alchemist from the country of the Netherlands. He spoke Dutch as his language. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because it's important how the word chaos is pronounced in the Dutch language. That k sound of chaos in Dutch is actually pronounced with a g sound. We borrowed this word into English, but we wrote it the way that it sounded. So not as chaos, but more like gas. That's where our word gas comes from. It's from the word chaos, from the alchemists. Gas is the stuff you've been creating. When you put a substance in acid and you see bubbles form, you're seeing a gas. As you study more chemistry, you'll learn that there's lots of different kinds of gases. Some of them you've probably already heard of. Gases like oxygen and helium. And carbon dioxide. You've probably heard of that one. It's the same gas you exhale when you breathe out. It's also the gas that bubbles in soda pop are made out of. By the way, the gas that you put in a car, that's a confusing word. It's not a gas. That word is just short for gasoline, which is a liquid. The gas that you produced today in your experiment was carbon dioxide. Most gases are invisible like this, but not always. When you put metal in nitric acid, you might remember this from an earlier mystery. It creates brown fumes. Watch this. Those brown fumes you see there are a brown-colored gas called nitrogen dioxide. But whether it's an invisible kind of gas or a visible one, all gases are real things. They're substances. Now, they're much lighter in weight than liquids and solids, but you can fill up a container with gases. You can even feel the pressure of the gas on the container. If we visualize a gas as being made of tiny particles, one way we can explain why a container fills up and explodes is to imagine that as the bubbles are being created by the baking soda and vinegar reaction, releasing more and more gas particles into the space above the liquid. As those particles move outwards, they press on the walls of the container, and once there's too many of them, The container bursts. It explodes. All explosions have this in common. They all involve a buildup of gas. So much gas that the container they're in bursts. Stay curious and see you next mystery.
So let's sum it all up. Why do things explode? The reason why anything explodes, be it a rocket, a dynamite, fireworks, is the chemical reaction produces a gas. The pressure inside that container gets too great, and the gas pushes out on the container, and eventually it explodes, and it bursts open. Okay, so when we are done here, I want you to go back to the assignment and complete the questions, then hit the Turn In button. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Flipgrid, and I'll record an answer today. Alright guys, thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon.